Hello. Well, today I wanted to sort of, I'll just talk about show some movies I've gotten lately. Most of them horror. There are a couple that I have not gotten because either they have yet to even be just released or just have not gotten here yet. But the first one, this is not horror, but or the rest of them are. It's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Obviously, Robert Redford has passed away recently, so rest in peace to him. And this is one of my favorite films of his and Paul Newman's. Both are great in this, and yeah, I'll probably talk about this at some point in the future. But yeah, this is a excellent movie. Both are, again, just fantastic. George Roy Hill also directed these two in The Sting, so which was obviously another huge hit for all these guys involved. But yeah. Next is the Arrow release of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 4K. And I will just show you this right here. Which, of course, there's that poster. Yeah, of the custom, the cover of the Arrow has, as well as the original theatrical poster. Yeah, there's quite a bit to say about the this, as well as and also a little advertisement for the prequel to the remake. And speaking of which, here is the prequel. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. And these two films have R. Lee Ermey in them. Sheriff Hoyt. And in this film, you get to see how he becomes sheriff. And yeah, R. Lee Ermey is amazing. And I think most would agree he's the best part of these films. And again, with Arrow, they have posters. Okay, come on. So here is obviously that cover that Arrow has, as well as then the original theatrical poster, which is really cool. Yeah, alright, yeah. Yeah, Arrow. One thing I do like about the slipcovers with Arrow and such, and it's another company I'm going to mention soon, but it's kind of cool because when you're able to take out this and turn it so it's so that the covers are kind of they are different. I really like that. And I was also just obviously just making sure everything was put back in here. But yeah, Arlie Ermy is in these two films. Really the best part of these films. Michael Bay produced these. And obviously people have a clear thought about Michael Bay where, oh, everything just explodes and everything and just non-stop action. And there's quite a bit of violence and stuff, obviously, in these films. But yeah. Overall, yeah, these are some interesting films. Let's just say, Roger Ebert, they actually quoted him as describing the remake, as a vile, ugly, and brutal. Also, this version has both the theatrical and the extended unrated cut, with a total of 5 more minutes in the film, which I only got the unrated cut on DVD, so I actually haven't seen the theatrical cut of this. So that's well, I'm just used to seeing the director's cut, so I probably should watch the theatrical cut just to see exactly what was trimmed and removed. But yeah, the remake and the prequel aren't very beloved, but people at least agree that Arlie Ermy is excellent in both, so that's good. Good for these films at least. And another horror franchise that I have finally got. I have the Shout Factory 4K edition of Halloween. I already have this on Blu-ray, but one thing I did not have on Blu-ray was Halloween 2. And this is also the Shout Factory version. Yeah, obviously, I got most of the Halloween films, with the exception of this and the Rob Zombie one. I also don't have the last one, Halloween Ends. I have seen stuff of it and have heard people whom I trust their judgment on stuff, and yeah, I've heard the Halloween Ends is not a good film, and that in some cases from some people they think that trilogy just should never have been made if it was just gonna go that direction the whole time. But then there's also discussion it was not supposed to go the direction it went, but whatever. We don't know for sure. We know for a fact that Halloween Kills was made. It was supposed to come out like 2020, but of course, things being shut down, I had to postpone it for a year, and so. Yeah, I've not done the complete full-on production of this latest trilogy. Though when I do finally get that film, I will talk about it because I've talked about the other two. But yeah, I got this. I do know that there is a steelbook of this from Shout Factory, but they only have the 2 discs, the first disc and the 4K disc and the Blu-ray, with both which have the films, whereas this 3-disc one has also the Halloween extended cut in HD with TV inserts in standard definition, as well as the original color timing presentation of the film, as well as the TV broadcast. The broadcast television cut in standard 1:3:1 aspect ratio. So there's on the 3rd disc, there's like 3 different versions of this film, and obviously the normal version on the first 2 discs. So obviously I wanted all these versions just so I could have them all finally. And Halloween 2, it took me way too long to finally get this. And of course I got most of those with the exclusion at the time of this and the Rob Zombie Halloween, like for my birthday one year. I already had the original, but yeah, I got most of all those for my birthday. And of course, later that year, Shout Factory announced they were going to have the entire collection, all of them up until the second Rob Zombie film, which is like, of course, around the time I finally get most of them, I just need a couple to complete it. An excellent set is coming out, but that is, I think, in a way kind of typical, yet also it's like, okay. Plus I figure, I might get the others of these in 4K at some point too, and have just these and as a cover, because they do have like the original theatrical posters here, and this also has like the TV version on the second Blu-ray disc. So there is that. And I know with Halloween 2, John Carpenter never really wanted that to happen. He didn't think a sequel to the first Halloween should have ever been made, particularly with the Michael Myers story. He thought Halloween 1 was the beginning and end of that story. There's nothing more to tell. And I've heard people and seen people say that, he had a contract, so he had zero choice but to do a sequel. Now, I don't know if that was explicitly with just for Halloween, Halloween 2, he had to do a sequel, or if it was like, with some contracts, especially back in those days, you make a deal with a company or whoever is going to back the money or back the film with money. You might say on contract you got to do a certain number of movies for them. And I don't know. It seems like I've seen some stuff. Of course, it's also the internet, so who knows? It could have been somewhere. The truth could be somewhere in between where signed a contract to where he had to do multiple movies, but a second Halloween film may not have been explicitly, stated to be a necessary thing, but might have been possibly heavily maybe suggested with certain wording, like, we hope you do an actual sequel to this film, because from the overall story and the script and the story you've given and everything, and what the ending will be, sounds like it. Yeah, this could be, a film where a sequel would happen. And of course, John Carpenter wanted to go the anthology route, where every year there's a Halloween film. It's a different movie entirely. Like, we're doing something different, because there's a lot of scary things that could happen on Halloween. We can go from a fairly realistic thing with Halloween, like 1, though of course Michael Myers is very supernatural, like he's like death, like he's got the devil's eyes, as Dr. Loomis says. But yeah, it's interesting. And I do remember an interview, though I don't think I can find it now on YouTube. I want to say it was this channel called Eyes on Cinema. Though lately when I looked over there, it's pretty much just now like extraterrestrial stuff. like aliens and life on other planets and stuff. And there are some, actual filmmaker interviews, but they're like Steven Spielberg, and they're like, well, they believe there is something out there, life on other planets, and their experience with seeing extraterrestrials and so on. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that channel have this specific interview with John Carpenter talking about his disappointment with Halloween 2 and how he didn't want to do it. And from what he has said was, he didn't really he wasn't exactly obligated. Of course, he could have been, leaving things out purposely because he just wasn't happy with the film on multiple levels. Personally, because especially since he did believe it needed to exist anyway, and also the fact he hated how he made Laurie and Michael Myers siblings, and he explained in that interview, and maybe it's somewhere else too. I don't know. It's been a long time since I saw this interview, but he was like, he was like buzzed because he had a six-pack and it was very buzzed, and so he was not in the right mind, but he knew he needed to get from here to end the film, get to the big climax of the whole thing coming to an end, because he knew how he wanted it to end, because he wanted to have a definitive end for Michael Myers, so this story could never go further than this. Like, it should never have gone further than the original Halloween as far as John Carpenter was concerned. But, yeah. Anyway, he just in his drunken state of also sort of somewhat fluidity, I believe he also had a deadline as to how he had to finish the script. Hence why he just, at that moment, he just jotted down their siblings, wrote that dialogue in exchange and everything, so that way you could get to the actual, get Dr. Loomis and all who are going to be important at the end to, get there, at the hospital where a good chunk of the entire film takes place. Yeah, it's but I like the film, and honestly, I don't know exactly what John Carpenter's thoughts are on the film now. Don't really hear about it. Be that a good thing or not, I don't know. But at least he has in the past, so whether he has actually softened his stance is another story. I mean, obviously, he produced and gave a thumbs up to the Halloween in 2018, which was a retroactive sequel to the original. It was a direct sequel. The two of them are not siblings or anything. He's just evil and is just trying to, just out to kill people and no real reason. So yeah, but whatever. And the last film I got is Friday the 13th Part 2 in 4K. So yeah, I'm wondering if or when they'll do Part 3. But I found this on a cool website that actually had this with and without the slipcover. And here's the back. It says, "You're all doomed. You're all doomed." Crazy Ralph. And of course, there is Jason with the sack head. Yeah. I've already talked about these films, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And also, Paramount had like 10 of these or so. They've done this for a while now. Have 10 of their, like, these horror films of theirs, and Friday the 13th was in one. I believe it was last year that this came out. Yeah, 2024. So yeah, last year this came out. Yeah. I'm sure I'll do something this year like that. We'll have like a big box, and it's, you know, over $100. But considering you get like 10 movies and all, that's actually a pretty good deal. I actually don't remember how much these were. It might have been quite a bit more than over 100, obviously. Might have been 200. But considering how good number of these actually have quite a bit of new stuff, you know, on them. Like sometimes, like, these are the first time, obviously, that these films have been on 4K, and so they, you know, definitely make sure to have a yeah, they make sure to, for some, like the first time ever, to just try to have as many cool special features and stuff on here. And one thing that I've noticed is, like, this doesn't have any commentary. I actually noticed that not some time ago. I had like a little marathon of Friday the 13th films, like when the last Friday the 13th happened. I just noticed that. Now, granted, I'm not a big commentary person overall, but I just thought that's interesting, especially since, you know, obviously as the sequels go on for Friday the 13th, there are a good number of them that are not good. Obviously, let's be honest. I mean, I think I've been pretty honest about the ones I'm not super fond of, but I try to be, you know, on the positive side as much as possible. Certain movies, you know, look at as whatever good aspects there are, you try to look at them. But yeah, I mean, but you know, the first four especially, those are ones that are seen as like phenomenal and excellent. Part 6 is also beloved. Part 7. And Freddy versus Jason, of course. I've always liked the reboot, and you know, the only ones I'm not super fond of are Part 5, A New Beginning, and Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. But I've talked about why I'm not super fond of those before. I guess to summarize for Part 5, you know, it's like they were kind of setting up something, but then, I don't know, the execution of how it was all set up, and I didn't like. I think there was potential elsewhere, which like seemed like they were setting up, but then of course they just didn't really follow through. Part 9, it's like there's the whole body hopping thing of Jason. I have never liked that. Still don't. Yeah, because it's part of the Friday the 13th franchise, I still make sure to watch it anyway. It's my least favorite of them all. I know a lot of people dump on part 8, and I get it. You know, it's called Jason Takes Manhattan, and he gets to New York in like the last third of the film, to be generous. And of course, most of that has to be in Vancouver because, you know, shooting in New York is expensive, and the original script, like, I believe half of it was in New York, and then it was rewritten. So, well, now 40%, and then 30, and it just kept getting smaller and smaller because Paramount did not want to shoot a whole lot, you know, in New York because of how expensive it is. And so stuff like a fight going on at Madison Square Garden couldn't happen, amongst other things. But yeah, I kind of give that film some slack as a result of those changes that had to be done. And hearing some of the stuff they wanted to have happen, but couldn't. Jason X, Jason Goes to Space, it's ridiculous, but I think everybody knew the premise is ridiculous, but let's go and make it as, let's be as serious as possible with this absurd premise, because, in a lot of ways, that's probably the best way, there's only so much tongue-in-cheek you can really do before you're so obvious, and it's like, okay, great, you've acknowledged that this is ridiculous. You've done that quite a bit now. Move on. It's no longer kind of funny. Everybody's in on the joke. You're trying to do more winking and nodding at this than necessary. I think they did. I think they handled it all well. And of course, I've talked about my fondness for the reboot of Friday the 13th. I really enjoy it. I know many don't. But honestly, it's like it went back to the roots in various ways. It was serious again, but it was also set in a modern day. Yeah. Anyway, I've rambled, but yeah, those are the 6 films I got. Butch Cassidy, excellent film, great classic. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. I'll probably talk about those at some point individually. Because I don't know, I remember watching those when I was a teen, really into horror films and stuff like that. So, in many ways, I recall just accepting these films for what they were and enjoying them. But of course, as you get older and you become a bit more critical of some stuff, sometimes that nostalgia, I guess you could have, that you're fairly fond of, and to some extent, it doesn't always stay. But yeah, I'll get into that, and who knows what I'll think about it just later. The 2 Halloween films. I probably will get the second one on 4K at some point, as well as the rest of those, part of Shout Factory. And Friday the 13th Part 2. And also, apparently, the Friday the 13th Scream Factory set is apparently going to be out of print soon. So if you like Friday the 13th, you enjoy that, but you have yet to have gotten it, I think whenever the next sale is, there's like a Shocktober sale, I think once that is over, you can never get that again. Outside, of course, of eBay and prices being overtly, stupidly expensive. So, yeah, if you want to get that 12 film set with also a 13th one in here, like with 2 discs of bonus stuff, get it now, get it soon, because whenever that happens, of course, by the time you see this, might be happening and over quickly. I've seen that. I've seen some videos of that, so just go over to shoutfactory.com and look at, the Scream Factory stuff, and yeah, look at Friday the 13th and see about getting them, and hopefully you can if you're able to, because I don't know how many they still have or they will make. It could be like once this is done, because this is the 5th year that they had that box set. That's actually quite amazing. So yeah, get it if you want. Obviously, if you have it, you don't have to worry, but still. The Blu-Rays are excellent quality, phenomenal. The first 4 have 4K quality. The rest have excellent quality, like 2K. And I think some 4K scans of sorts of the last few of the franchise, but yeah, I know for sure off the top of my head 5 through 8 are 2K, but still excellent quality. You know, it just is. And I don't have the Nightmare on Elm Street set on 4K. I might get that soon, but or at least in the near future. But yeah, that does give some hope that Arrow might be able to get a hold of Freddy versus Jason, since Nightmare on Elm Street does not include that, and it's a 7-film set, so might be at least be able to complete the Friday the 13th Jason Voorhees Arrow 4K collection with Freddy vs. Jason. Hopefully, at least, but well, we shall see. You know, and yeah, that's enough of my ramblings here and there. Apologies for the little cut, but you know, I mean, I was making sure I have that back into that poster back, because you know, yeah, this is way too long. I rambled. I apologize. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. Please take care. Please have a great weekend. And yeah, if you really enjoy the spooky season, I hope you're enjoying it. All right. I shall see you all next time. Please take care. And bye.